Good afternoon. I'm Stacy Freed with the Department of Housing and Community Development. With me, I have James Turner. We are here for the legally required consultation with the Planning Commission on adopting rules and regulations for the inclusionary housing program. This is our third trip back. Happy to be here. So we've been here before, but just by way of a quick update, the city had an inclusionary housing law in 2007. It did not quite achieve the impact that was intended. There was a substantial analysis and revision to these laws that resulted in Ordinance 24-308. Legislation was enacted in December of 2024. But in a nutshell, if you are a multifamily project and you have 20 or more units and you receive a major subsidy that has a broad definition and you are looking for significant rezoning or land use authorization and your per unit construction cost is $60,000 or more, and you are doing new construction or substantial renovation, you are subject to an inclusionary housing determination. You have to check all of those boxes to be able to be required to make inclusionary housing units available, all of the boxes. If you check all of the boxes, 10% of your units are designated as inclusionary units. 5% of those units would be made available to households earning 50% of the area median income as determined by HUD. 5% would be made available to households earning 60% of the area median income as determined by HUD.
So you were very clear with your ands and further clarifying that you have to check all of those boxes. I heard subsidy, broad definition, and zoning.
Correct. It should be, I'm sorry, subsidy and or major. It could be both.
That's an or.
Correct. You could, it depends on the project. Some projects have major subsidies, some projects.
Past discussions, I thought that we talked about a rezoning as a type of subsidy.
It is, yes, and or.
Right, but if it checks all those other boxes and doesn't need a rezoning, that would still qualify.
That's correct.
Well, I mean, one of the things that's not necessarily intuitive is that the law considers the taking of by right tax credits as a major public subsidy. So since virtually all projects of this type and scale, and I don't have a list, but virtually all of them end up taking the multifamily, the high performance market rate multifamily credit, that's a major public subsidy. And there was a big discussion when it was being done about whether we meant, discretionary subsidies or anything. And ultimately, it was decided that it would include by rights. So, Stacey, you can, check me on this, but I think that by and large, almost all of these projects are taking the market rate multifamily credit.
They are, but there are also other forms of tax credits and subsidies involved.
Right, but you only need one. In that case, you only need one.
It doesn't matter. You need one. You can have more than one, but one is what kicks off the requirements.
But the point I'm making in part is that you get to major public subsidy much quicker than anything else, particularly when a major public subsidy includes by right credits that most everybody seems to take.
And we have the authority to do that? We have the authority to do that even if we're not the ones issuing the credit or subsidy?
Well, the subsidy is a city. No, I think it's only city.
It's only city-issued subsidy.
City credits.
So, if you're applying for federal historic tax credits, the inclusionary housing law would not apply to your project unless, in addition to that, there's also a city-specific subsidy or tax credit. If you meet these four conditions, you are required to complete an inclusionary housing plan. It outlines how many units, the number that would be affordable, the proposed market rate rent, the proposed affordable rent. You provide a site plan, you provide a marketing plan, you provide a great deal of specific detail about how you will meet the affirmatively furthering fair marketing plan to ensure that tenants who would not normally think they have an opportunity to live in these buildings actually do have the opportunity to live in these neighborhoods and in these properties at an affordable rent. The plan is reviewed by DHCD. It is presented to the Inclusionary Housing Board for review and comment. The board legally does not approve the plans. We sign off on the plan. You are able to, once we sign off on the plan, your building permit is able to move forward. So the trigger to all of this is a building permit application. Once you submit a building permit application, there's a lot of boxes you have to check. One of them is an inclusionary housing determination, and places a hold on your permit application until you've complied with submitting a plan and it's been reviewed and there's been a determination. The law requires that units are made available for a 30-year period in order to ensure compliance. The developers, at the time of their closing, are required to record a declaration. The declaration stipulates there is a 30-year affordability period provided that the city provides comparable subsidy to make the units affordable. There is a companion bill to this that is run through the finance department. There is an inclusionary housing tax credit. It provides a credit against the difference between a market rate rent and the affordable rent. Since we have been back, we have seated 9 out of 10 members of the Inclusionary Housing Board. The mayor appointed Chris Mfume as chair. We have reviewed several plans. 2 of the plans have been determined to make inclusionary housing units available. One is at 211 West 28th Street in the Remington community, 7-Eleven is. And one is the former hotel at 222 St. Paul Place. Neither of those projects are under construction. So units will be made available when the projects are under construction and when they've received a use and occupancy permit. We have also put together and we post an inclusionary housing dashboard that provides a summary of all of the applications we receive, because even if you do an affordable project, you're required, if you meet those 4 conditions, you still need to come in and submit a plan because there were some current concerns and questions. Somebody says, I'm doing an affordable housing plan, and then they kind of, change their mind somewhere down the road. This provides some safeguards for everybody. It shows the number of required units. It shows when they come online. As projects progress, as they open, we will update units when they are available and the households to whom they are leased. That's just the timeline. We are back now because we have published 2 drafts of the rules and regulations. We are planning to go out and publish a 3rd draft on December 15th. This 3rd draft clarifies some definitions, things like what is wholly. There have been a lot of conversations in the public comments we've received. What does wholly renovated mean? It's established more stringent standards for tenant eligibility and tenant screening criteria. Property owners or developers now have to provide very specific details. How do you select a tenant? How do you use credit? How does credit ratings play a role in this? How do judgments play a role in this? Liens, evictions. We strengthened the language to stipulate that the only way things like an eviction can be determined, used to determine if you're a qualified applicant, is if the eviction actually took place. So if you rented and a landlord filed an eviction notice against you and you worked it out and you weren't actually evicted, that cannot be used to, as part of determining if you qualify for the unit. We added demographic information into the annual plan that developers are required to report. And while the developers may provide individual information in order to protect, for privacy rights and protecting the tenants who may be living or have lived in that unit, it will be aggregated. The department is required to publish an annual plan every December for the prior fiscal year, so we will be publishing the fiscal year 25 plan this coming December. Additionally, as units come online, developers are also required to submit an annual plan for each of the 30-year affordability period, and that will also be posted online. This is just an overview of the sections in the rules and regulations. We follow the city's administrative and COMAR requirements in putting together the rules and regulations. The rules and regulations are very prescribed. A lot of the work and understanding inclusionary housing is actually not in the rules and regulations. It's in the very significant and substantial details we provide in an inclusionary housing program manual, which is what we call the How to Do Inclusionary Housing. So that includes, how to complete a housing plan. It provides examples of, what happens when you have how do you round up when you have an odd number of units? If you have 70 units and 10% is 7 and we can't provide 3.5 units, how do you round up? It provides examples of how to complete examples of completing an affirmative marketing plan. It provides a draft of the Declaration of Covenants. That also gets agreed to and signed as part of the inclusionary housing plan. It gets executed at the closing. It is a draft form. We leave it up to the developers council to work with the city law department on any other kind of changes that they may need. The program guidelines are an exhibit to the rules and regulations, so they get they become more formal or they get adopted when the rules and regulations are adopted. When the rules or regulations are adopted, we will also update the program guidelines. But meanwhile, all the information, everything you have to do, everything you need to know is posted on our website. We have gone through 2 public comment periods. The law requires a 30-day public comment period starting from the day that the rules and regulations are posted in COMAR, which is the 15th of every month. So this next public comment period will start on December 15th. It will run through January 15th. We did check with the law department. It is 30 days. You do not get an extension of days in the event there's a holiday or holidays occurring during that 30-day period. DHCD has established a dedicated inclusionary housing email box where everybody's comments go so they don't get lost. Most important, they don't come to me. At the end of the 30-day comment period, we review all of the comments, we organize them, we share them with the law department to determine what we legally can and legally cannot consider. We provide recommendations on those rules and regulations. We present them to the Inclusionary Housing Advisory Board and a recommendation of whether we think we should move forward to adopt the regulations or whether additional changes are needed and we need to go back out and publish again. The Planning Commission is welcome as part of that 30-day public comment period. Certainly welcome any input from the Planning Commission, either collectively or individually. This second draft shows the sections that we have been focusing on. We've talked a lot about that already. You know, how the wait list is established, how we review and qualify tenants, how we have sort of tightened up and made more stringent and specific the affirmatively furthering fair housing marketing plans. We post everything. We've talked about some of the comments we received, how we've addressed them in this upcoming draft. Third draft, we are currently we've gone through multiple iterations with the Department of Legislative Reference and with the City Law Department. You know, at the end of the day, they will tell us what legally we can and cannot include. And that's it in a nutshell. We are happy to answer any questions. Hello, Director Kane. Nice to see you again.
So just a little bit of framework. So just so I think folks understand, the law requires DHCD to consult with us about rules and regulations, which I think is the main reason that they're here. It also requires the annual report to be submitted to the mayor and city council, to the board, and to the planning commission at the end of the year, whenever that is published. It's supposed to be by December 31. So that's the context. The regulations are being revised just because we're kind of in a learning mode. I mean, I'm just trying to understand, is it because you publish regulations and then you run the program for a while and you think, oh my gosh, there's some changes we need to make, so it's just an iterative process that perhaps will
we haven't even adopted the rules, and we're still
but they're not adopted yet.
We're still trying to get to the point of adoption. We're still going through the conversations, the drafts, the iterative process to get us to the point of being able to adopt the rules and regulations. Once they are adopted, it's been my recommendation, let's see how they work. Let's look at them. If we need to, let's evaluate every year if something's working, something isn't working, and if we have to change them, then we will. We are just going through this process now and have been here 3 times as part of the effort to be able to adopt the rules and regulations.
But you're running the program under the regulations as drafted, or?
We are running the program as the law specifies us to run the program.
Okay. Are you getting comments, like quality comments? Are there a lot of people out there who are focused on this and trying to give you? I mean, I'm just trying to understand what the source.
We do receive a fair number of comments. Quality is a very subjective term. We like to think that everybody's comments matters. Most of the comments, there are a lot of comments. If I had to put them in kind of general buckets. There are comments, we get a lot of comments, people are concerned about the lack of inclusionary units that have come online. I know the Planning Commission understands this, but first and foremost, inclusionary units are opening up affordable housing opportunities in market rate projects in neighborhoods where affordable housing might not otherwise be available. Just to be perfectly direct about it, if folks are not building this housing, if they can't get it financed, we can't compel units to come online. Or similarly, if they have submitted plans, if they do have an inclusionary housing obligation, if construction is delayed, if financing is delayed, if units are delayed, that's just how that's the nature of the project. Right. Most of the comments center around accessibility, around people finding out about, making sure, again, going to what we talked about earlier, that tenants who are the least likely to qualify know they have an opportunity, about being very careful when projects are located near academic institutions, about who gets to move in and who gets to apply. There have been a number of conversations about what it means to be a student and does a student qualify.
Got it.
We think there's a lot of opportunity around academic institutions. There's a significant amount of workforce in academic institutions that actually would fall within the 50 and 60% of the area median income guidelines for this region.
Okay, I have some more questions, but I want to give other people a chance. Any questions for HCD?
This is a very general question, and peripherally related to this. These rules and regulations are specifically focused on rental units.
Correct. They're specifically focused on not just rental units, they are focused on inclusionary housing units.
Right.
Not all rental units.
So years and years ago, when we started this discussion, when some people in this room might not have even been born, there was a thought that this should also be sort of, these opportunities should translate to home ownership opportunities as well. That may have been an initiative that's been sort of pushed to the side as we focus.
It was actually, so when we realized we needed to, the old law wasn't working, we needed to come about this differently, we actually did retain HRA advisors and enterprise partners to do a very detailed analysis. The analysis did look at home ownership units, but it concluded that it would be really, be very difficult to enforce. Didn't make sense necessarily in Baltimore at that time, particularly given that at the time that we did this analysis, there was a considerable amount of market rate units coming online and less so of home ownership units.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wanted to just see if we were able to play both sides of the housing delivery game.
We do. I mean, but what I would say is that, DHCD has a number of programs in place to support affordable housing and to ensure various levels of long-term affordability and affordability in general.
Yeah, we at the time, we were looking at Montgomery County and sort of peer communities to see what they had done. And the challenge was always to maintain the inventory of available units, because they would get snapped up instantly, and then you have a handful of people benefiting from the equity growth.
Yes.
And so it seemed at the time impossible to do that fairly. So, okay, but I appreciate we're moving forward on the rental side. That's the key. Thank you.
Commissioner Griffin? Commissioner Joel? Commissioner Allen? So let me just ask a couple questions. Sort of a micro question. I don't remember, when is the plan, a backup? The program is the program and the policy is the policy, and I think people want to see it succeed. I'm trying to understand the administration of the program, because we want it to be as smooth as possible, as clear as possible, so that people, know when they have to comply, when they don't have to comply, know what the rules are, et cetera.
Happy to answer that.
So just remind me, what's the point of entry? I don't remember when you have to sort of.
So right now, you're talking to the two people administering the program.
Right.
We are here. For some of us, for the foreseeable future. So every 2 weeks, I meet with the Deputy Commissioner of Permits and Code Enforcement, and we produce a report, and it looks at all of the building permit applications that have been filed for every multifamily project that is more than 20 units. James and I reach out individually to each of those developers through email. We discuss we remind them, we say there is an inclusionary housing plan, we tell them what the requirements are, what their obligation is. We send them a draft, we send them the plan to complete. We are always available to meet with folks. We follow up, but the big trigger there is there's a hold on your building permit application until there's an email from me to the Deputy Commissioner with the attached approved plan that says they've submitted the plan. They either do not have to make inclusionary units available, or they do have to make inclusionary units available.
For developers who are paying attention and are aware of the program, what's the proactive version of that? I mean, it's great that you're doing that. What's the proactive version of that? When are they supposed to, engage with DHCD or planning or whomever about?
Typically, they would engage with us at their pre-development meeting with the planning department. I would say that, that is working. I would remind folks that it takes a long time from the time you start a project to the time you get to a building permit. So we do pick up on some of those. We don't pick up on all of them. That's why we have safeguards in place. Caitlin and I were just talking about this. Again, there's been a slowdown in rental projects coming online.
Got it.
The other sort of stopgap is I'm on the plan. I am a member of I'm a member of site plan review. I can receive all of the agendas. I do actually look at them. If there's a housing project, we reach out to the planning department staff in advance. We may reach out to the developer in advance. An example of that, there was a site plan review committee for the Triangle project up in Upton. It's including 22 or so rental units. We have already reached out to the developer about his inclusionary housing obligations. We've already provided him with the information that he needs to complete and submit.
Is there either a required or a customary or a target timeframe for someone to get a response that says you are subject to, I know there are waiver provisions you're not subject to, or we're reviewing your plan?
So it's up to the developer to submit the plan. They're typically pretty motivated because what we say to them is your building permit application is on hold
Right.
until you take care of this. That tends to get people to pay attention. On our end, I believe the law says that once we've received the plan and been it is correct because this is an iterative process with some developers. It takes a few passes back and forth to get the information, to get the math correct, all of the exhibits, etc. We have 30 days from the time we receive a plan to review it, present it to the Inclusionary Housing Board, and provide a determination to the Deputy Commission for Permits and Legal Enforcement.
My last question, which zooms way out, is I just wonder if you could give us some sense of how it's going. How do you feel about, what are the pressure points? What should we know? What would you how would you assess the overall implementation of the?
Well, I don't know that we don't have any. I think the answer to your question is we don't know. We don't have any units that have come online yet. We don't have any units where the projects are sufficiently under construction to have started the leasing process or the marketing the unit process. I think we're in a pretty good place. I think we have a pretty good system to do what we do for what we know. We're always looking for ways to improve it. We did create an online platform to submit both the inclusionary housing plan and the annual reports, which that to me is a big help, through our Neighborly platform.
Got it. Okay.
From the outside, people's biggest concern we hear is there aren't any inclusionary units online.
Okay, thank you. All right, one last round, anybody? Other questions? Thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
Okay. Walter P. Carter.
We'll be quick, hopefully, unless you have lots of questions. Go ahead, Yafa.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yafa Weiss. I'm here with my colleague, Marie Anderson. We're here to present our initial briefing for the Walter P. Carter Elementary Middle School Inspire Plan. We plan on presenting, the full plan for full adoption at the December 11th commissioners meeting. We just wanted to start with this briefing.
And this is our last plan together. 3 plans in the last 3 years, which is a lot and fun, but
It's been a ride.
we can go to the next one.
Is that a function of the Inspire program or personnel issues?
Function of the Inspire program. We work great together. It's just been fun to.
Yeah. I don't know where it is.
I think they stole the clicker. Is that a good
Stacy.
Can you text Stacy?
Sorry. We were
Okay,
hoping
I'll
this
be
would
over
quick.
there.
Go ahead.
Can you click to the next slide?
Where's that picture from?
We got invited to a fancy happy hour, and it's clearly not our offices. But I was like, take a picture of me. Okay. I don't know how to.
We got the clicker. You're
We
good.
got it.
Okay, cool. Go for it.
So INSPIRE is an acronym that stands for Investing in Neighborhoods and Schools to Promote Improvement, Revitalization, and Excellence. So this program prioritizes communities centered on, or prioritizes planning areas centered around the new 21st century school building developments that are throughout the city, and focus on the half-mile area or 10-minute walk around each school as a plan to help guide private and public investment. The scope for each INSPIRE plan is trifold. The first, which we will talk about a little later in this presentation, are the primary walking route improvements. These are intended to help connect students to between their school, their home, and other resources and assets in the communities that we work in. The second is the area-specific recommendations report, which we provided an initial draft for. The final plan is still being created in Microsoft InDesign, but will be ready prior to the December 11th meeting.
Yeah. Do you have a draft uploaded in Wix? Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you,
I
Caitlin.
can't open mine.
Oh, I didn't try to open it. I'm looking at the link. Oh, you're right. It's not a live link. The slides are there as a live
I
link.
did put it in Wix, but Wix isn't put it right.
Yeah, we'll get you the updated.
Sorry.
Make
PDF.
sure to do that. And the third and final leg is a community improvement project where one or more of the recommendations in the INSPIRE plan are adopted and funded through some limited funding available through the INSPIRE program to catalyze the additional recommendations being enacted. Walter B. Carter Elementary Middle School is located in northern Baltimore along East 43rd Street in the Wilson Park neighborhood, but the school also has significant pull from the neighboring Penn Lucine neighborhood. Intersecting the INSPIRE area are the major roadways of York Road and East Cold Spring Lane. Walter P. Carter also shares a campus with the Lois T. Murray Elementary Middle School, which is a school with specific programming for students with significant cognitive disabilities. My apologies. The INSPIRE planning process was launched prior to 2020 with some initial community outreach before both Marie and I started at the Department of Planning. Due to COVID and other departmental priorities, that was INSPIRE plans were paused before the plan was reenacted, before community engagement was reenacted in 2023 and concluded this year. And
Yeah, we can go to the next slide.
did you want to talk about?
I can. So this plan in particular, I've been a part of the planning process since the very beginning. So in my previous role at Loyola University, the design process started in 2016, but as you all know, the advocacy process towards the 21st century schools started well before that. And this particular 21st century school was very fraught. So as part of this process, Guilford Elementary School shut down. And so the two school communities merged into Walter P. Carter. And so there are about 850 students that go to that site on a daily basis. And for better or for worse, COVID was actually somewhat good because there was a lot of tension between the Guilford school community and the Walter P. Carter school community. So these meetings were really fraught with the design planning process. But after COVID, the school opened in 2021, and folks didn't know who was from Guilford and who was from Walter P. Carter. So that is one of the positives that has come out of COVID, and it has become a really cohesive school community.
Thank you. Just want to provide a quick background on the planning area. As mentioned before, it is within the Wilson Park neighborhood and shares a campus with Lois T. Murray. The school is also home to the Walter P. Carter Pool, which is an open community pool open during standard operating hours for city recreation. The majority of the community is zoned for residential use with a plethora of housing, of diverse housing options from standalone homes, row homes, and various apartment complexes. The Inspire planning process kicked off with the curation of the primary walking routes. I will say this took place prior to both Marie and I starting with this, so this predates our time with the department. But routes were selected and received updates, believe in prior to 2020 from DOT. Sorry. Oh, I need to change the dates on. I wrote incorrect dates on this.
Thank you.
I apologize for the dates being the years on this being incorrect, but this runs from 2023 to 2025 for our community outreach. That I apologize that will be updated prior to the to December 11th. I'm going to turn over to Marie briefly to talk about some of the key goals for the recommendation report.
Sure. So one of the great things about this plan in particular is that the community actually did a pre-planning process. So when the school was going through the reconstruction phase, in 2017, they put together a plan, Penn Lucie and Wilson Park. They worked with Strong City Baltimore. You all can update Director Keene on what that is or what it was. GEDCO, and it was funded through enterprise partners. So we had a really good base to work from, which is great. And we ended up, go back. But we just wanted to highlight a few of the example recommendations that were coming out of the plan. So for folks who aren't familiar, Springfield Woods is an incredible 3.5 forested, essentially community park that's catty corner to the school. And Baltimore Green Space has done an incredible job in working with the neighborhood. It was founded by Butch Berry, who has since passed away, but he used to work in production in LA. He grew up in the neighborhood, and he established this woods because this is where he played when he grew up. And Springfield, the site of the school and the area is on the site of a former spring, so there's a little stream running through it. So just creating better connections between the school and the local asset, which is really an ecological asset. I don't know where to point this.
If you squeeze it down a little bit.
Okay. And then some folks who have traveled up and down York Road are probably very familiar with this eyesore. It's like dreaming. It's calling for like a big dragon on the side. I don't know. Some community art of some sort. But recently, so it's actually owned by Church of the Redeemed of the Lord, which is one of the largest churches along the York Road area. I think it has like over 5,000 members. So Wilson Park gets very busy on Sunday mornings. But they reached out recently to really figure out what is possible with this site. It's a very skinny site, but it is zoned C1, and the York Road Business Improvement District is also very interested in these conversations. So through this process, we offered for the Department of Planning to play some sort of role in supporting this conversation. Okay, and then last but not least, anyone who is familiar with the history of Baltimore knows that Wilson Park is one of the oldest historically Black neighborhoods in the city of Baltimore, founded by Henry O. Wilson. His home is a landmark site in the neighborhood, and amazing folks like Cab Calloway, W. Ashby Hawkins, a civil rights lawyer, called this place home, but some other lesser-known folks also called this place home. So one of these folks is Olojumu, who is a professional Baltimore artist and dancer, and another is Mr. Arthur Lamb, who was a theater professor and founded Morgan State's WEAA radio station. So throughout this process, history has been a really important piece, and this is actually the first Inspire plan that we collected oral histories and worked with CHAP to do so. That's it. Happy to take.
Yeah, we look forward to presenting the final plan in our presentation on December 11th to the Commission. But we're happy to take questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions? Go ahead, please.
The plan is great, it's wonderful. My question is about the first comment that you made about this being the last one.
Okay, no, not the last one, like just the last one for us. So I'll be working with Patrick on the Montebello plan next. And as we transition, so if you all remember Medfield, we completed last year. So we have started steering committees for the plans that have passed. So Medfield is paired up with Robert Poole. And so we have community leaders and folks from different agencies depending on what the priorities are. So Walter P. Carter will be paired up with Govans Elementary and we'll work together to implement strategies.
Great, wonderful.
This is, it's a great, I've read it, it's a great plan, thank you. And every Inspire plan I've read has been really well done and, impressive. But I'm going to ask the question that folks may know is sort of coming, which is, why are we doing this?
Greenspan, no, I'm just
You
kidding.
know, why are we doing this? What does it mean? What's the consequence? How does the world change after we have the plan versus before we have the plan? And I went and looked at our handy dandy little app that the department was nice enough to prepare previously, and I'm seeing a York Roads Community SNAP plan, I'm seeing a community master plan for Penn Lucy, I'm seeing a community managed plan for the York Road Corridor, at least, and this plan isn't on the map yet, it's not adopted, but I know where it is. So those are the other things that seem proximate and overlapping. So combined with the question is, what's the plan, how do things change from before to after, and what's the relationship to the other planning documents that cover some of the same geography?
Do you mind if I?
Please.
So I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look through the Penn Lucy plan in
I have not.
2006, but some of the land use recommendations from then have actually led to substantial neighborhood transformation. So if you remember along Old York Road in the 4000 block, that was all commercial, and some of it still is commercial, but that was all rezoned to R7 at community behest. And so folks might know the name of Penn Lucy because of violence, drug violence. And in the past 10 years, that has transformed. So I think that's just like one example of how planning can affect really positively neighborhoods. So I think we've been really focused on planning for the plans, and now we're getting to the implementation part. So really to see some of those things come to fruition.
A number of the recommendations, in addition to a number of infrastructure work that we recommended this plan, there's a lot of, community solidarity and community building recommendations that we also include, so which might have non-tangible results, but still we believe are essential to helping create a vibrant community within this area and celebrating the assets that are in existence.
Yeah, and I think taking the tack of working Govans and Walter P. Carter with the knowledge that that really covers the entire east side of the York Road corridor, and building political capital in that way to move forward all of the goals in both of those plans.
Yeah, I mean, I would say to some extent, you're defending something which I'm not by any means asking you to defend, which is the value of planning and impact of prior plans. I'm just trying to understand prospectively what's happening, what is this plan going to do, how does it relate to other plans, why are we putting another plan on top of other planning documents, how does it relate to the Penn Lucy plan, does it, I don't recall, does it call out the Penn Lucy plan, and
And as part of like all of our Inspire planning processes, we evaluate all past plans. So it's really, it's a good opportunity. I mean, 2006 was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
To evaluate what has been done, what still needs to be done, and what is still a priority. So all of those planning documents inform every Inspire plan. And that's not just with Walter P. Carter, that's with Govans, that's going to happen with Montebello as well.
do we ever acknowledge that a plan is 20 years old and it can't possibly all be relevant today, and we should either revise it or repeal it like we do with urban renewal ordinances or other planning documents?
I was like, there's been some conversation. I would encourage you to talk to Director Keene. But there's been some conversations amongst the CPR planners about how to update our neighborhood plans policy in particular.
Yeah. Okay. I don't mean that that's plenty for me for today, but I just,
Yeah.
these just for me, continue to raise the same question, which is absolutely no reflection on the quality of the plan, document, the hard work that's been done, and certainly appreciate your leadership and the communities. These are great planning documents. I'm just trying to fit them into the overall framework. Do you want to say anything, Director?
Well, I don't know, maybe. To me, you're asking the question, what is city planning and what is its value? You know, and John heard a presentation I made yesterday, the chair heard a presentation I made yesterday to a big group about that very topic. And I don't want to leave this conversation. Jaffa and Marie are presenting a great plan. I think one of my responsibilities is to work among the first priorities is to establish the way we're going to do planning so that there is clear relationship with every scale of thing that we do. And I'm not suggesting we do more plans. I might have said it before. I feel like we've got a little bit more work to do on these Inspire plans, as was mentioned, but we've got to focus not so much on more plans, but on more clarity and specificity around what these plans mean regarding the city we're building. So I just don't want to leave with anybody thinking that I'm sitting here thinking, well, y'all just, figure it out. I mean, this is a really important question, and I know a real responsibility of mine to work towards clarity and specificity around the relationship of all these things to each other. And I have a very specific idea about how to do this, so I look forward to getting into it with everybody.
Terrific. Thank you very much. And thank you all very much. Any other remaining questions? Are we good? Okay.